Hey guys, it's the Pink King here, and today you might be wondering what's going on, but allow me to explain. A few days ago, I announced I would be going over all the Jurassic movies in order. Seeing it is now Jurassic June, so in this series I will be explaining my connection to each movie, whether I think it's any good or not, and why I think these things. Why am I doing this? Well, Jurassic Park is my most treasured movie of all time, as it is what started my love for dinosaurs in the first place, so I think it's about time I share my love for the franchise by retrospectively revisiting all movies, starting with the first one. Released in 1993, Jurassic Park was directed by Steven Spielberg and produced by Universal Studios. Now, something a lot of you might not know is that Jurassic Park was actually a novel before it was a movie. Originally, the brainchild of Michael Crichton, a famous writer who ultimately ended up creating possibly the most important piece of paleo media in history. But despite Michael laying the groundwork, it was the movie that left the bigger impact. And it makes me wonder, after all these years of praise and admiration for the effects, the characters, I have one question. Is Jurassic Park still a good movie? And the answer is, quite simply, yes. Yes, it is. If not, even better. This movie is still an absolute wonder to watch, with this movie truly understanding what it takes to make something iconic. Whether it be the Brachiosaurus grazing, the sick Triceratops laying, or the T-Rex breaking, this movie understands iconic. I was really worried going into this again that age and perhaps my nostalgia glasses would be taken off, and I would finally be revealed to this movie's flaws, but it never happened. This movie, to me, is still just as timeless as when it first launched, with this movie having deeply flawed characters and messages. No character here is 100% in the right. They all have issues, all have things they need to learn or die trying. Spielberg took the same lesson he did from Jaws and applied it here. If we care about the characters, then we will care even more when the creatures show up, and we will still care when they're not there. And even with the movie's messaging, I feel it's even more relevant today than it's ever been. Especially this line by Ian Malcolm.
Yeah, don't you see the danger, John, inherent in what you're doing here? Genetic power is the most awesome force the planet's ever seen, but you wield it like a kid that's found his dad's gun. If I may, I'll tell you the problem with the scientific power that you're using here. It didn't require any discipline to attain it. You know, you read what others had done, and you took the next step. You didn't earn the knowledge for yourselves, so you don't take any responsibility for it. You stood on the shoulders of geniuses to accomplish something as fast as you could, and before you even knew what you had, you patented it and packaged it and slapped it on a plastic lunchbox, and now you're selling it. You want to sell it. Well, yeah, but your scientists were so preoccupied with whether or not they could, they didn't stop to think if they should.
Hollywood now is a dark place, with studios doing everything in their power to mistreat their workers, all for the sake of filling their own pockets, in a time where AI is trying to replace humans, where AI companies are meeting with studio executives, not the artists who could be helped with the technology, but rather the people in charge who could replace them with AI. As John Hammond would say,
"Spared no expense."
But that is the very thing that will ultimately be the downfall of this technology. The lack of care, the lack of understanding of whether or not we can do something, but whether or not we should do something. We shouldn't be trying to mass produce something we don't fully understand, something we didn't earn for ourselves. And it is that messaging that, to me, makes this movie even better than it originally was. I could talk about the effects, the story, the horror, and so much more about this movie, but so many others have already done that and done it way better than I ever could. So let me provide something a little bit newer to the table, because it is this that, for me, makes this movie eternal. How it will ultimately be our carelessness and need to rush things to keep ahead of everyone else that will ultimately be our own downfall. And how this movie, despite all the years that have gone by, is still able to keep that message as relevant as possible, proving that some things should just remain as fantasies. Jurassic Park has changed for me over the years, and yet I still adore it. It was such a well-crafted movie, a movie that quite frankly was a miracle considering all the troubles in production, and that Spielberg made this at the exact same time he was making Schindler's List. It is a true shining example of how you make something iconic. And for me, this movie is still a perfect 10 out of 10. There's just simply nothing I could point out of how this movie could have done something a bit better. It all flows so incredibly naturally, it feels so incredibly timeless, and it's just an absolute miracle to watch. It's been the Pink King here. If you enjoyed this video, then do subscribe. Subscribing means I can bring you more content just like this in the future. And especially considering the next time I'm going to be covering The Lost World. So until then, I will see you all next time.